you've endorsed Joe Biden. You and I have connected on a number of political topics that we're both passionate about. And I remember I saw a tweet from you championing local journalism, which I could not agree more with. Universal health care and universal basic income you think should be on the table now, given the nature of the crisis we're in the midst of. Did you have like an arc politically? Was it something that you and your family were interested in from a while ago, or did you just start paying more attention more recently?
No, I've always been engaged. One of the things I admire about the NBA players is they're a lot more active than I was at that age. I was pretty self-centered at that point, worried about my own career. So I think I've been more active, but I was always engaged. I grew up in a my parents were conservative. For me, the arc was as I was always socially pretty liberal. I just didn't understand why anybody cared if you were sleeping with somebody of the same sex or what the color of your skin was or any of those things. But I think I've certainly had an arc in terms of economic issues. I think at one point I was a, balance the budget guy, and still am to a degree. The difference between me and conservatives would probably be I'd raise taxes and bring in more money so we could help more people. But recently, right before you started running for president, so these two things really propelled me. My wife and I had watched, it's probably a 3 or 4 year old documentary that Robert Reich did when he was teaching at Cal. Well, he still is. And, he was talking about trickle-down doesn't work.
Yep.
Going up, building the middle class so people have more money to spend. That's what builds an economy and helps everyone. And so we watched that, made all kinds of sense. Trickle-down has never made any sense to me whatsoever. Like this idea that they're going to create jobs up here. Like I know, I've never even run a business, but if I run a restaurant, the only reason I'm going to hire more waiters or waitresses is I have more customers. Like you can give me a tax break and put another 100,000 in my pocket. I'm not going out to hire anybody.
I'm not going to hire some more people unless I have customers.
I'm not going to hire somebody if I have the need to hire them. So Robert Reich made sense to me. If now I have more customers in my restaurant, I do better. I hire more people, they do better. And so I watched that. That made a lot of sense. I learned a lot from that. And then, within months, if not even weeks after watching that, you're on stage talking about universal basic income, which that idea goes exactly with that, putting more money in people's pockets. And so I will say that's a more recent thing to me within the last year of saying, wow, this makes a lot of sense. It's not only more humane, fairer to people in our society, but to me, that helps everybody, including the people at the top.
Yep. Yeah, if you're running a business, you know what you need? You need customers with money to show up. And if you're in an environment right now where everyone is being sent home, it's like, who are you going to profit from? Like you look outside, we can't all be Amazon. I guess Amazon's still doing all right. So this is the trickle up economy. And I saw the same documentary you saw with Robert Reich. And he's been a very powerful and consistent voice in this direction, keeps on writing books, keeps on pounding the table, making the case. And the economy's just gotten more and more extreme over time. It was the most extreme winner-take-all economy in the history of the world pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic just turned everything up to 11. Like it just sped everything up.
Well, and here in Central Florida, we have felt it about as much as anybody because we don't have a lot of business here. It's a tourism business and we're in the service, it's a service economy. So we got a lot of people working low wage jobs here. We have the biggest affordable housing crisis in the United States because we're paying people $10, $12, $15 an hour. and that's it. And there's no upward mobility when you're running a ride at Disney World, And so we can make our unemployment numbers look okay, but those are not high paying jobs. And then when people quit traveling and quit going to those things in a pandemic, I mean, it has really, really been bad. I know the biggest local food shelter in the area has, been doing about triple the number of meals that they normally do. It's been really, really rough, and it hasn't been. You would think. I mean, for everybody, this pandemic's been rough, but you would think when you go through a crisis that it should be shared. It should be a shared grief and a shared adversity, and that's not the way it's been. Bernie Sanders tweets out, one of your former opponents, like at least every other day tweets out how much some of these billionaires have made during the pandemic. And, their net worth is going up, and we've got all these people who can't eat. And that led to your tweet today, which is my favorite and will probably be going up on a sign in my room when I can get the calligraphy done about, and I'm not reading the quote right now, but imagine having the wherewithal to, solve people's problems, and then you don't do it. I can't solve the problems that Jeff Bezos can solve, but I've been lucky enough I can solve a few people's problems, and you have to do it. I love that tweet. I've sent it. I retweeted it, but if people not on Twitter, I was sending it out to everybody today, and I think that's where it should be. We should really be a community of people who are helping others. But we can't count on charity. That's why, to me, UBI and things like that, like we can't depend on charity. We need systems in place that will help people through this. So.
Well, one of the reasons why I think that there's something universal about sports and there's something universal about coaching where you form a community with your team. You're part of a group, you're on this together. And then you naturally want the same kind of thing for our country. When you're going through a hard time, it's not like the team's going through a hard time and you just start ignoring people or singling people out or just like pretend some people don't exist. It's like, okay, who's on the team? Like, let's come together. And here in America, we have to all get on the same team, really. Like that, there's just too many problems that are facing folks for us to just continue all of the strange trend of just everyone blaming the other side for everything, for turning on each other and singling each other out. It's painful for me too, Stan. Like it's painful for me to see our country go through this time and have all these self-inflicted wounds, really. It's like this would be a very rough time even if we did everything right. And I would say that for most of us looking at it from the outside, the NBA was an incredibly high-functioning organization and did just about everything it could do right at the bubble. And then it's in the sharp contrast to most of our other institutions where everyone's looking around being like, who's supposed to be running the show? Who's supposed to be leading this? The federal government has not been leading, and I think you're a coach, you're like a leader of men, you're a community builder. I think it's one of the reasons why people love sports, love the NBA, is that there's something very human about that. And it feels like that's what the country needs right now.
Yeah, to me, and I'm sure to you too, because I've heard you speak a lot, the most frustrating thing is we have the wealth in this country. We have the resources to do this and to take care of all of our people. Now, there's countries in the world that are very, very poor and don't have the wherewithal to take care of the problems in their country. We have the wealth to do that, and
yes,
we just don't have the systems in place, and we don't have the will or to make the sacrifice to make this a more equal society where everybody can share in this. And that's what frustrates me. If it was a shared experience and we just don't have the money to help people, we do. We have
We
the
clearly
money to
do.
do it.
Everyone knows it now too, Stan. When I was running for president, people would be like, "Oh, like how do we pay for that?" And then we just watch our Congress write a $2.2 trillion check mainly to the like the biggest companies, and then you're just like, "Oh, we could have done this the whole time."
You know you can do it. I mean, you can do universal basic income. You can do Medicare for all or some form of universal health care. You know, whatever's best. I've said to people like I'm not as smart as you or Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, and I haven't gotten as deep into that. But those possibilities are out there, and why we would choose as a wealthy country to have the levels of poverty we have, to have the number of people without health care and without health insurance that we have is just mind-boggling to me. And it's a failure in our moral character in our country. And there's no other way to put that. I mean, you can't sugarcoat that. You have the resources to take care of these problems. You refuse to do it. Your moral character is lacking. I'm not like, that's not a partisan thing. That's just the truth.
Yeah, and it should be apolitical too, Stan. It should just be human. And unfortunately, right now, our politics has become inseparable from the media narratives, from frankly the corporate interests, because so many of our politicians just have very, very rich corporate interests whispering in their ear all the time. I'd love to change it. I think we have a chance to change it in some measure after Trump is out and Joe and Kamala are in. I believe some very big things will be on the table. And really then the challenge is going to be, can we get enough done in, let's call it 4 years, that people feel like we have genuinely started to come together and rebuild that trust, not based upon statements, but upon actually improving people's day-to-day lives and reality. Like that to me is going to be the challenge over the next number of years, because if we fail in that, then people's mistrust and that disintegration of the sense of community is just going to accelerate as well. I feel like we have a window of opportunity here that we have to take full advantage of. I may play a role in that, but that's where my head is going now.
Yeah, and as you know, I mean, I think people are realistic. We're not going to solve all the problems within a 4-year term, but I think we can start to solve them, and I think we can show people in very concrete terms, like you say, not in statements, but in things getting done. We can show people the possibilities of what a better society could look like for everybody in this country, and we could set a direction of starting to get there. That to me is what can happen, and that takes concrete things. It's not just statements, but we start to turn around and we get more money in people's pocket, heading toward hopefully at least some form of universal basic income, and at least we start working toward getting more people health insurance and, you know, all of these problems. Are we going to get it turned 180 degrees in 4 years? No, that's not realistic. But can you turn it 60 degrees, 70 degrees, and give people the feeling we're on the right track? We can do these things. We have the resources. We have the leadership. We can do these things. That's what I'm hoping will happen over the next 4 years. I'm not expecting Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, people like you, I hope, in the administration. That's a great hope for us. I'm not expecting like, hey, they took over January of 21 and it's February now. Yep, we've got it all. I got my universal basic income check and we're ready to go.
Yeah, even if we do everything right, you're right that a lot of it's going to be, have we made headway? Have we made progress? And it's a little bit like if you take over a team, you're not going to turn around being like, we're going to be champions.
That's right.
like this year. It's like, look, give me a few years and hopefully we'll have a direction, we'll have a culture, we'll have a sense of trust, a sense of confidence. That's certainly my vision for the next number of years. Well, Stan, such a pleasure connecting with you and a privilege. I've been an admirer of you and your work for a long time. You're a force for good, a force for community, a force for progress in our country. And I'm looking forward to finding ways that we can work together. One of my dreams is that universal basic income takes root in communities around the country. And I think that people like you are going to be a big part of it.
I would love to help you in any way. I mean, I think that, my biggest issue has just been justice and equality in every area. Racial justice, women's rights, LGBTQ rights. But economic justice is one that just cuts across all of those and for everybody and makes a true difference in people's lives. And so if you ever need my help, even in a small way, I would be happy to get on board, because I think you've shown us a blueprint. Now we just have to have the political will and courage to give it a shot.
Well, thank you, Stan. Thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you did, please do subscribe to Yang Speaks and click on notifications so we can let you know every time we have a new episode.